Welcome to our lesson on monomials. The first part we'll look at will be terminology and a little bit of background information on monomials. The second half we'll look at actual power rules. As you can probably recall, the prefix mono in monomial refers to one. So a monomial can be a number, including a fraction. It can be a decimal value. It can be just a variable as well, a singular variable. But what we're more likely to see in this chapter is a product, a grouping of a coefficient with variables. So here's a coefficient of 3 multiplied to x. It's held together by multiplication, thus it's called a product. Here's another example of a monomial with a coefficient of -7, x and y, and here's another monomial, 1/2 times x. What we cannot have as a monomial is variables in the denominator of a fraction. We also cannot have, in monomials, a variable with a negative power, and we also can't have the variables under a square root. You've already heard me use some of these terms before today, but here's a reminder. A constant is a value or a monomial that contains no variables. A coefficient is the numerical value in front of variables. A couple more terms before we dive into a listing of our power or exponent rules. A power is just another term for exponent. Base is the actual value to which is getting raised to a power. So you would have a numerical value here as a base, and then in the power position you either have what we call the power or the exponent. So an example would be 2 to the third, where 2 would be the base and 3 is the power or the exponent. Expanding a power means to begin in the power form and rewriting the product of how many times this base is getting multiplied to itself. So as you can see, going from this form to this form makes it bigger. That's why we call it an expansion. Condensing is the reverse. It's starting with the big product, all the bases multiplying together, and then ending up in its power form or in the form with the exponent. So it's going from big to small. So we use the word condensing to a power.